America wasn't built in silence, it rose from the clashing voices of people who refused to hide their struggles and dreams. From the first settlers who argued around wooden tables to the protesters who filled the streets generations later, each word carried the weight of change. Even when fear tried to keep mouths shut, courage pushed them open again. The nation's journey became a tapestry of ideas that collided, united, broke apart, and rebuilt something stronger than before. In the early days, whispers traveled through crowded taverns where farmers, merchants, and sailors debated what life in a new land should mean. Some spoke of freedom, others feared rebellion, and many simply wanted an escape from the burdens they had fled. Yet those conversations, messy, loud, and heated, planted the seeds of a nation that grew from disagreement rather than harmony. Silence would have left them stuck, but words carried them forward into the unknown. When the colonies reached a boiling point, it wasn't quiet contemplation that stirred hearts, it was fiery speeches echoing through halls and streets. Voices like Patrick Henry, Abigail Adams, and countless unnamed citizens challenged the comfort of stillness. They understood that words could spark courage in the hesitant and clarity in the confused. Revolution wasn't a single moment but a long chain of arguments that finally broke into action. As independence came, silence became the enemy of progress. Debates thundered through the Constitutional Convention, where brilliant minds clashed for months. Every clause, every phrase, every right was carved through conflict. The founders feared tyranny, yet they also feared the chaos of too many voices, but ultimately they trusted the power of open discourse more than the danger of quiet submission. Their disagreements shaped the documents that built the nation's core. During westward expansion, conversations echoed across campfires and frontier towns. Families argued whether to chase opportunity or stay behind. Leaders discussed treaties and boundaries, while settlers negotiated survival with strangers they met along harsh trails. Even conflicts with indigenous nations were shaped by communication, tragically broken, painfully misunderstood, and too often overshadowed by violence. Still, words carried the stories of those who endured the journey and shaped America's vast landscape. Enslaved people in the South endured a silence imposed by cruelty, yet they created hidden networks of speech, whispers through cabins, coded messages in songs, quiet plans for escape. Though their voices were suppressed, they refused to let silence define their existence. Each secret conversation was an act of resistance, a declaration that their humanity could not be erased. Their courage added a powerful thread to America's story. Abolitionists erupted onto the national stage with speeches, newspapers, and petitions. They challenged the comfortable silence of those who looked away. Figures like Frederick Douglass turned personal suffering into powerful public truth, shaking the conscience of a nation. Even when faced with threats and violence, they continued speaking, believing that silence in the face of injustice was a betrayal of the country's founding ideals. The Civil War erupted from voices pushed too far apart to reconcile peacefully. Soldiers wrote letters home, struggling to explain the chaos they witnessed. Families debated loyalties across dinner tables, sometimes splitting generations apart. Though the war was brutal, it forced the nation to confront truths long buried beneath silence. The conflict proved that ignoring problems only makes them louder when they finally explode. Reconstruction brought new conversations, some hopeful, others hostile. Freed people gathered in churches and schools, discussing rights they had been denied for centuries. Politicians argued over how much freedom they were truly willing to grant. Though progress was inconsistent, these discussions placed equality at the center of national attention. The dialogue was messy, but it marked the beginning of change America could no longer avoid. Industrialization transformed cities into crowded hubs buzzing with noise, factories clanging, trains roaring, markets bustling. Workers voiced frustrations about long hours and unsafe conditions. Unions formed, not from quiet suffering, but from collective speech demanding better treatment. Though employers resisted, the rising chorus of workers eventually forced reforms that shaped modern labor rights and improved the lives of millions. Immigrants arriving at Ellis Island brought their own languages, traditions, and hopes. They debated life decisions in crowded apartments, shared dreams in factory break rooms, and passed stories through generations. Their accents and cultures added new harmonies to America's growing symphony. Though some tried to silence them with discrimination, their voices remained central to the nation's identity, proving that diversity strengthens rather than weakens. Women, long told to remain quiet, began raising their voices in homes, streets, and halls of power. The suffrage movement grew from conversations held in living rooms and community gatherings. Leaders like Susan B. Anthony and Sojourner Truth demanded that their voices be heard, refusing to accept silence as destiny. Every march and speech edged the nation closer to equality, challenging deeply rooted traditions. The fight for voting rights was not won in a single moment but through decades of outspoken determination. Women endured ridicule, arrest, and violence, yet they persisted. They understood that silence only reinforced oppression, while speech created cracks in barriers that once seemed unbreakable. When victory finally came, it reshaped the political landscape and opened doors for generations to come. As the world plunged into global conflict, America found itself debating isolation versus intervention. Citizens discussed the cost of war around radios and dinner tables. Soldiers wrote diaries describing their fears and hopes. Even in the darkest moments, communication kept morale alive. The nation learned that unity does not require silence, it requires listening, understanding, and speaking truth even when it is difficult. The Great Depression pushed families into hardship, forcing conversations about survival. Communities leaned on each other, sharing advice, resources, and encouragement. Politicians debated solutions while citizens voiced their anger at injustice. Out of these struggles came new programs shaped by public demand, proving again that collective dialogue can turn despair into action and build support systems for those most vulnerable. During the civil rights era, voices rang out louder than ever. Marchers chanted messages of hope, activists delivered groundbreaking speeches, and ordinary citizens added their strength by refusing to remain silent. Leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. taught that speech could be both peaceful and powerful, capable of dismantling walls built over centuries. Silence was no longer acceptable, the nation had to confront its deepest wounds. Television brought these struggles into every home, broadcasting images that forced the nation to choose between justice and complacency. Parents discussed the news with children who asked why people were being treated unfairly. Protesters risked everything to speak out, even when met with violence. Their bravery pushed the country toward long overdue reforms, reminding America once more that silence protects only the status quo. The anti-war movements of the late 20th century erupted from college campuses and city streets. Young people challenged government decisions, questioning the cost of conflict. Their voices sparked national conversations about responsibility, ethics, and the value of human life. While some dismissed them as rebellious, their persistence changed public opinion and demonstrated the impact of organized speech on global events. As technology advanced, Americans found new ways to express themselves. Radio gave way to television, and television to the internet. Each innovation expanded opportunities for dialogue, enabling voices once confined to local spaces to reach national and global audiences. This digital evolution empowered movements, exposed injustice, and connected people who otherwise would have remained isolated. In modern America, disagreements continue across political, cultural, and personal lines. Yet this conflict is not a sign of failure, it is evidence that the nation remains alive and evolving. Citizens express frustrations through debates, elections, and social platforms. Though the noise can feel overwhelming, it reflects a fundamental truth: progress has never emerged from silence, but from the courage to speak and the willingness to listen. Community leaders today encourage dialogue to bridge divides. Town halls, forums, and online conversations foster discussions about housing, education, healthcare, and justice. While opinions clash, these exchanges create opportunities for understanding. Silence would only deepen mistrust, but open expression helps build pathways toward cooperation and shared solutions. In classrooms, young people learn to voice their ideas and challenge outdated beliefs. Teachers encourage questions that push boundaries, helping students develop the confidence to shape their futures. This environment of expression prepares the next generation to continue America's legacy of vocal transformation. Silence would stifle innovation, but curiosity drives discovery. Artists, writers, and filmmakers contribute to the national conversation by sharing stories that explore identity, struggle, and triumph. Their work sparks discussions that resonate across all backgrounds. Creativity thrives only when people feel free to speak their truth, and America's cultural landscape reflects the richness of countless voices refusing to be ignored. Social movements continue to emerge, addressing inequalities in justice, opportunity, and representation. Through marches, petitions, and digital campaigns, people demand attention to issues that affect daily life. These voices challenge systems that rely on silence to maintain power. Every message shared, every testimony offered, becomes a thread in America's continuous story of striving for fairness. Even in moments of national crisis, Americans find strength in communication. During natural disasters, pandemics, and economic challenges, people share resources, advice, and support. Leaders address the nation, experts offer guidance, and communities unite through conversation. Silence in such times would breed fear, but speech brings clarity and hope. Families around dinner tables still debate the direction of the country. Though views differ, these conversations reflect the freedom to think independently. Generational perspectives clash, yet they also learn from each other. The willingness to speak honestly strengthens relationships and ensures that values evolve rather than stagnate. This tradition of open dialogue keeps democracy rooted in real life. Many Americans today fear that the nation is more divided than ever, but division is not new. What matters is how people choose to respond. Silence allows conflict to deepen, but engagement, respectful or passionate, creates opportunities for understanding. The nation's history proves that out of tension emerges transformation, as long as voices remain active. As the country faces global challenges, cooperation becomes more essential. Scientists, leaders, and activists exchange ideas that shape environmental policies, technological advances, and humanitarian efforts. These conversations stretch across borders, showing that America's voice contributes to a global chorus. Silence would isolate the nation, but communication strengthens its role in the world. At the heart of America's progress is the belief that every person has the right to speak their mind. This principle drives innovation, justice, and resilience. From the ordinary citizen to the influential leader, each voice holds the power to shape the future. The nation's greatest achievements have arisen from people who refused to stay quiet, even when the world urged them to. America wasn't built in silence, and it won't be shaped by it either. Its future depends on those who dare to speak, to argue, to dream, and to challenge what seems unchangeable. As long as voices continue to rise, bold, honest, diverse, the nation will keep evolving. Progress may be loud, messy, and uncertain, but it is through expression that America finds its strength and writes its next chapter.